Last week, former Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, argued in support of legalising assisted dying, wanting to correct the assumption that all religious figures are fundamentally opposed to the concept. In a fascinating essay written for the British Medical Journal, he said, "There is nothing holy about agony. If terminally ill people do not want to live out their last few months in pain, for what purpose should they be forced to do so? And in whose interest is that life being prolonged?" Tomorrow, the British Medical Association will vote on whether to drop its historic opposition to assisted dying, reflecting the shifting views of doctors who mostly approve of a law change in the largest ever survey, which was conducted on the issue last year. So to debate this subject, it's a hot topic. It's going to become very over the next few weeks tonight. I'm joined by Graham Nicholls. He is the director of Affinity, Gospel Churches in Partnership, Dr. Mark Pickering from Care Not Killing, and Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Romain, who co-authored the piece with Lord Carey. So, Dr. Romain, let me come to you first. This was quite a significant piece, wasn't it? Why did you write it with the former Archbishop of Canterbury?
Well, to correct the impression that actually religious people are against assisted dying, when in fact quite the contrary. It's true that there are some religious figures against it, and they've got arguments on their side. But actually, the vast majority, about which I'm talking about 82% of people of faith, that's defined as people who go to church or other institutions at least once a month, are in favour, because we all believe that life is precious. But if someone is terminally ill, in other words, they're dying, and they're about to die within the next few weeks or months, and they're dying in great pain and distress, and they want to let go of life and gently hand it back to God, then why are we forcing them to live on in pain? Surely it's utterly immoral, it's irreligious, we're just respecting their autonomy. And if any listener to your programme, Dan, has got cancer or motor neuron or Parkinson's, and they want to live to their last breath, that's great, that's fine. And we have wonderful hospices and hospitals. But there are many people who cannot be helped by a palliative care, who die in great pain and agony. This isn't theory. I'm a congregational minister. I go around hospitals and hospices and see that. So it's wonderful for those who can get the care. But for those who are dying in pain and who say, let me go, I don't want to live out the next 2 or 3 weeks or months in agony. Why are we forcing them to live on? And the really, really great thing about this bill is that it's actually proposing something that's already been in operation in the state of Oregon along the same sort of lines. In other words, it's only for those terminally ill, only if you're mentally competent, and only if it's your free will. We know this has been in operation for 25 years and very successfully. So why not have it in this country? Because otherwise we're condemning those people to suffer on in pain, or to make a terrible trip overseas to Dignitas and die abroad alone in a strange place, or some of them try and commit suicide, which often is botched, which leaves them in worse condition, and certainly, even if it's successful, is horrible for the relatives to have to deal with a suicide. So for people who want to carry on, great, but for people who want to let go, who are dying already, that's the point, then why aren't we letting them do so? That seems to me by far the most humane thing to do.
No, I absolutely understand. Graham Nicholls, let me bring you in, the director of Affinity. Why is the rabbi wrong? I mean, I don't know about you, but I have watched someone very close to me die in a hospice of cancer, and there's nothing worse. And let me tell you, there's nothing worse than those few final weeks and months when that person you love, you literally see them shrivel up. You see them unable to speak, unable to enjoy anything pleasant about life. Why would you not give someone in that terminal position the opportunity to respectfully and with their faith end their life?
I think what George Carey and what others are suggesting is actually appalling. I think there's an arrogance and a misunderstanding about the Bible and the place of suffering in terms of just understanding who decides when life ends and should our lives always be free of pain. But I think it's appalling in terms of what it will let in. I have no doubts that having got to this stage, if the bill goes through, that many people will feel the pressure to end their lives even if they don't want to. That's the experience with abortion law, that's the experience with assisted dying laws in other countries, that eventually we'll be looking at those who are physically handicapped, we'll be looking at those who are mentally in some way struggling. That's what's happening in Canada. It's going to happen in 2023. There is no way that this will not open the floodgates to a call on people to end their lives. There'll be psychological pressure. It will just be appalling.
Okay,
and we
well,
can all
let me
talk
get
about
the
kind of
rabbi to respond to that. I just want the rabbi to respond to that. So Dr. Jonathan Romain, is that not a point? You would be opening the floodgates to something that potentially you would not then be able to control.
Well, he made 2 points. One was the floodgates, and that's simply not true, because we can, in this extraordinarily rare situation, foresee the future. Normally, I wouldn't say that about anything, because it's daunting to say. But precisely because this bill is what's actually in operation in Oregon, and a very, very small percentage of people actually take it up. And that's remained very consistently low throughout the last 25 years. So we know that that's not true. And the other thing that he said was that this is appalling. Well, he's entitled to his opinion. And if you want to carry on to your last breath, great. You do that. But isn't it a bit arrogant insisting that other people die according to your principles and die in pain because you don't like that idea? So choose your own death, but don't determine that other people have to suffer in pain.
Okay, thank you. Mark Pickering, you're from the organisation Care Not Killing. The problem is, when you're dying of cancer, Mark, and I don't know if you've seen someone close to you die of cancer, but when you're in those final weeks, no amount of care can actually stop the pain.
That's just simply not true. Pain is actually a very small percentage of the reasons why people ask for assisted dying. And Rabbi Romain knows this, because in Oregon, for instance, pain is a very small percentage of what people ask for. The vast majority is about autonomy. They can't do the things they used to enjoy. It's about feeling... Well, it's about feeling a burden. People who feel a burden on their family and their carers, that is not a good reason for us to be promoting this. Now, Rabbi Romain says that there's an impression that all faith groups are implacably opposed to changes in the law. He and his colleagues have made that false assumption, and now they want to knock it down when they have created it. Faith groups have never said we are all opposed to it. I mean, Rabbi Romain's Religious Alliance for Dignity in Dying, it used to be called Interfaith Leaders for Dignity in Dying, and it faded out into nothingness because there are so few leaders of religions that are there. There are 4 of them now: Rabbi Romain, Canon Harper, George Carey and Desmond Tutu, 2 retired archbishops, a liberal rabbi and a liberal Anglican cleric. This is not mainstream religious leaders.
So
and
Rabbi,
very often
Rabbi
we see
Romain...
that actually, if I could just finish.
Yes, of course.
Actually, he quotes 80-odd% of people, but these are by and large not the people who are engaging with their faith. I work in prisons. There are lots of people in prison who have a religious faith, but they're not there because they've engaged with their faith. They might have ticked the box and been confirmed, but many of the people, likewise he who are in Rabbi Romain's organisation, they might tick the box and say the Catholic or Church of England, but the leaders today, like Justin Welby, like Rowan Williams, who actually engage with the substance of what the scriptures say, who have an actual active religious view on that, very often they see the potential value of suffering and other things
I
as
understand your point. So Rabbi Romain, Mark Pickering from Care Not Killing says, you're an outlier. You're a complete outlier. The other mainstream religious organisations aren't with you in any way.
Well, he's certainly right that the leaders of the main faiths, like the Cardinal of Westminster, Vincent Nicholls, or the Archbishop of Canterbury, they are opposed. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. But there's a vast hinterland behind them of bishops and priests and ordinary people who are in favour. And that's why this 82% crops up, because these are people who actually are church goers or synagogue goers or mosque goers. So these are not people in prison. These are active Christians, Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, Hindus. And the reason why we changed the organisation was, you're right, again, it was just the leaders, and we wanted to expand it to the people in the pews and the laity. So there is
Graham Nicholls, do you get the sense that there's a change within your congregations?
Sorry, you're asking me?
Graham Nicholls, yeah.
No, I don't within my congregations. I do get it that across the country and across sort of broad spectrums of Christianity, the idea is probably more acceptable.
Well, yeah,
I think
because you know the
argument-
polls, you know the opinion polls, Graham Nicholls, show that over 80% of the British public agree with the concept of assisted dying. And when you get to those numbers, do you not start to accept that this is an inevitability?
Yeah, I'm not arguing for whether it's going to happen or not. I'm arguing for whether it's good or not.
No.
And I think in terms of God and what He says to us, I think it's not good. I think our hope is not in autonomy. Our hope is not in being able to control the day of our death. Our hope is in Jesus Christ and knowing Him and knowing eternal life through Him. And that gives us hope even through suffering. And we can make fantastic
I hear your point.
stories. But also,
I hear your point.
Just to finish the slightly different point, I think that nobody knows when they're going to die anyway. And this whole concept of being terminal, we're all terminal, we're all going to die, and we need to be ready to face God. But we don't know when we're going to die. And there's an arrogance in saying, I know when this person's going to die, that we don't know the future. And we just need people to live for as long as they can with dignity, not to forcibly extend their lives, but let them live with dignity and lots of opportunities to get to know
Look,
God.
it's a fascinating debate. We're going to come back to this one. As I say, my personal view on it has been very much shaped by my personal experience watching someone close to me die. But I really do appreciate all of the points you made tonight. That was Graham Nicholls, the director of Affinity, a network of evangelical Christian churches against euthanasia. Before that, Dr. Mark Pickering from Care Not Killing, and the Vice Chair of Dignity in Dying, the Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Romain. Thank you all.